A new method just got revealed to lower the amount of tokens you're spending on Claude Fable by upwards of 70%. And the method of doing so is actually kind of hidden in plain text right here. Or actually, that's the kicker. It's not plain text, it's a new method that people have found out by taking a bulky piece of text and turning it into an image, because apparently that could be 59 to 70% cheaper in the end. So the following is what's going on. The same system prompt, the same tool docs, and everything is the same, but it's just a fraction of the tokens by rendering a bulky context piece of text or something as an image. So apparently, in the current system of Claude, and again, this is so important, especially if you still have access to the same model that we're using for this specific guide, let's call it. An image's token cost is fixed by its pixel dimensions, not by how much text is actually inside of it. So dense content, code JSON, two outputs pack 3.1 characters per image token versus 1 character per text token. Now, this system doesn't really use any really foreign or crazy code. All it uses is the engine that Anthropic already themselves uses in their computers for, well, interpreting screenshots, but they have found a way to turn any sort of text piece, any context really, into another compact PNG. It's not really a difficult process. All it took was for somebody to find out that actually, on average, you can get about 3 times as much value out of images rather than just plain text. So instead of a whole piece of text that you can actually, copy out of, this is literally what the model then gets. It's one big string, but not in a normal string the way a input string or really output string for any AI would be. No, it's actually the way an image works. So this whole lap of text right here is one simple, very small, or rather bulky PNG. You can see right here, 48,000 characters of system prompt plus 2 docs, 25k tokens as text, but only 2.7 thousand image tokens as this page. So this is actually really crazy. Now, if you want the full-on guide on how to set this up for yourself, make sure you join our school. It's absolutely free, 100% free, and linked down below. I'll just paste the prompts that you need or the guide and all the links you may need in there. And they've done all the comparisons. They've looked at all the numbers specifically for Fable, because how useful this is in Opus we'll talk about in just a second. But as it shows right here, in all of the testing that they've done, the results, in my opinion, are pretty staggering. It ended the session with $6.06 with a lot of context to spare in the image form, 73.5 thousand out of a million, versus $42.21 at 96% full in terms of context. Now, I have to place a couple of caveats because you could try it for yourself in a very easy fashion, as you can see right here. There's a couple of pieces you need to know about, and that is that this system is not perfect. There's still some text required, and on Opus, it's not as juicy. Does it still work? Well, if we take a look at the benchmarks right here, it says on Claude Fable 5, the test resulted in about 38% worth of token reductions. As a matter of fact, on Opus 4.8, a similar sort of situation. However, I personally never really run out of tokens on Opus. It was mostly just for Claude Fable 5 that this was really a big thing. And actually, if you're wondering how it works, you can read the little line right here. Tool result string, wrap at 1928 pixels wide columns, pack 92,000 characters per page, and put that into a PNG. And the reason there's such a big difference between this minus 38% that we see right here versus all the way at the top, the mentioned 50 to 70% is actually a story that they write right here. Is the headline end-to-end or only on the request you touched? End-to-end, the whole bill. Most compression tools report savings only on the input slice that they touched, which flatters the number. It makes it basically less. The end-to-end denominator is every production request. The small ones, PX pipe correctly left untouched, all cache writes and reads, and all output tokens, which the proxy never compresses. On a 13,709 request snapshot, that was 59%. So from $100 to $41. A later 8,904 compressed request traced measured about 70%. Compressed only runs run higher at 72 to 74% and is quoted separately, never as the headline. And now if we scroll through towards the bottom, this is actually, in my opinion, the most fascinating part of it all. Why does the Readme, which I just had to read myself through, reads like an AI wrote it? And that's because one did. Now, I've been watching a lot of overviews, interviews, and talks from different leaders at AI companies like Anthropic, and one of the most fascinating parts is that they keep talking about how the increase in AI usage is also increasing the AI autonomousness. And that basically means that right now, most humans still put goals out there for AI. Right? And so when we're talking about Claude being built, a big portion of it is Claude now recently, but most of the bigger goals are still made by humans. Verifying the code, looking at whether or not things are going wrong is still all done by humans. But with now more and more vulnerabilities being found, more and more systems around things are being found with the power of AI, because that's basically what happened right here. We already saw one ban just now on Fable. We're most likely going to keep seeing that more and more as these things are just getting too powerful at finding clever workarounds. Now, in theory, Fable is very walled off, meaning you can't really do too many sketchy things by design. And actually, if you do want to understand how that works, you've got to watch this 3.5-hour video by the freaking AI GOAT. You can see why it's got 8 million views, because it explains everything you need to know about AI. Because by watching that video, which you don't have to, don't worry, I'm just stating that's one of the best videos on AI out there. If you've watched it or you know a bit more about AI, you realize why these type of findings, these type of optimizations, and these type of workarounds are such a valuable thing and really propose such a big threat for the future, because the problem with the way the internet works right now is we only know so much about it. We know how it was built. We know all the different characters that were inserted to make something beautiful that we call the internet. But we really do not know what we don't know about the way the internet works or about how computers work that we never really could have figured out. If you see a system of just bits, right, zeros and ones, well, perhaps there's something way deeper in the underlying system of that in terms of how it could be hacked, could be optimized or changed altogether. Hey, maybe the system of zeros and ones eventually will be completely overthrown by something that can think outside of the box and kind of knows it all, like our beautiful AI. Anyway, this is one of the coolest optimization tips I've ever seen. Massive reductions, 30 to 70% across the board. Should this be for everybody? No. There's some instances in which it works and some instances in which it's not as amazing, but the idea that this is something that's possible, in my opinion, is just really exciting, and it really makes you realize that there are many different optimizations that you can still find within Claude Fable 5 to prompt in a better way, to use things way more efficiently, and to save on a lot of tokens versus the competition, because all this stuff, even though it looks so beautiful and is worth billions of dollars, Anthropic is so big, well, there's still some really cool flunky things, because at the end of the day, AI is still extremely new. Anyway, if you want the full-on guide, just check out the school. I'll link it down below, and make sure that you join back in tomorrow for another AI video.